and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm showing you how I drafted the pattern for this corset top I sketched and turned it into a reality. So if you want to see how I drafted this, keep watching. Okay, so I went ahead and drafted the basic blouse bodice for this person. The main thing I noted on this basic blouse bodice was the bust point, the under bust, the half length, and the full length. So now this is, I just made a rough sketch, not an actual sketch, but I just made a rough sketch of what I'll be making. That's a rough sketch of what I'm making. So let's start making it. First thing is I want to go ahead and have that that high neck thingy that I have going on there. I'm going to use a black marker to do the actual thing. So this right here is just a rough draft. So I want my neck to start from 6 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and mark my 6 inches right here. So from my 6 inches, I'm going to go ahead and use a curve to blend it into the armhole. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to measure my nipple to nipple, which is my bust span. So her bust span is 7. Go ahead and divide 7 by 2, which is going to be 3.5, and mark that line. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this so no one is working with this. So on that line, I'm going to go ahead. On the under bust, I'm going to take in 0.75. I'm going to take out, let me use the ruler so you guys can see. I'm going to take out 0.75 inch right here. 0.75 inch right here. So now that 0.75, I'm going to write it here. So that way, I know to include it when I'm adding my allowance for this side. So now I'm going to connect my under bust to my bust point using the French curve. So this is gonna go like this, and this is gonna go like this. So now I'm going to connect this to this top part now. So on this top line, I'm going to go ahead and measure 0.75 to like this, and 0.75 on this side, like so. So now I'm going to do that too. I'm going to connect this line. I'm going to make it straight up to this point. So straight here, like so. Make it like, I'm going to connect it from this half length mark down like so. Now the next thing I'm going to do, my sketch just has 3 corset fillings, so that's good. So I'm just going to have this one, the one, and the one in the middle. So this is all I have. Now I'm just going to work here with this piece. This middle one is going to be the center front, but I'm going to add ½ inch allowance. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take the bust measurement. The bust measurement is 32. So 32 divided by 4. If you don't understand why I'm dividing, go ahead and watch my video on how to the formula is needed for sewing. So I'm going to measure that on my bust point. So the bust is 8. I'm going to cut it as is. I'm not adding any allowance to this particular, any sewing allowance to this particular piece. Because now her waist is 25. So I'm going to go ahead, divide 25 by 4, 6.25, but I'm just going to make it 6.5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure. So this is 2.5 right here. This is 2.5. I'm going to measure it. I'm going to ignore this space right here and move my 2.5 here and continue my measurements. So 6.25 ends up being here. So now from this point, I can just go ahead and draw my straight connecting line. So it's always good to measure the hip, but in this case, it's really good. It's not going to get to the, it's going to really stop at the half length. It's not really going to get to the hip. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw a straight line from here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it the shape. So from the sketch, you guys can see that it has this curved shape on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead from my half length. I'm going to do a curve to my full length, which is 17 inches. So from my half length, do a curve to 17 inches like so. Goes. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So this is going to be center front, and this is going to be the front 2. So center front piece 1, front 2. I just like to label my stuff so that way I don't mix it up. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. I wanted to remind you guys that this shaded part is going to be useless. I'm going to cut it off entirely and not use it. So I'm going to be using these 2 pieces. For the back piece, I just drafted it like the front parts, labeled my main part, which is bust point, the yoke length, half length, and the 17-inch full length. So I did not include a zipper allowance because I would not be needing one, so there's no point really including one. So the first thing I'm going to do is to measure the depth of my neck for the back. I want the depth to be around, say, let me do it at 9 inches. Actually, I'm going to have the neck depth at 9.5, which is where my bust point is. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this my neck depth to my armhole. From the front, the armhole came down a little bit more, so I'm going to go ahead and just freehand this to look something like this. So like kind of like a U neck type thing. Yeah, so perfect. So this is going to be my neckline right here. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to measure for my dart. I'm going to subtract 1.5 inch because of that space that the rope is going to tie. So subtract 1.5 inch and take it out. So now this is going to disappear because we do not need it anymore. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure for my dart. My dart is going to be at 4 inches away from the original thing, so right here. Then I'm going to rule a line. So for my dart, for the width, I'm going to measure it on the yoke length again. So I'm going to do it at 1/2 inch. So 1/2 inch on this side, 1/2 inch on this side. So I'm just going to go ahead, connect it to this top, like so. And then draw it straight down to the end, like this. I'm going to go ahead and measure 1/2 inch away from this part, from where my new start line is. So 1/2 inch here, and draw a straight line. So from that 1/2 inch mark, I'm going to measure 1/4 and then put a point there. So now from that 1/4 point, I'm going to join this like so to that 1/4 point, and then straight down. So this is actually going to be a piece. It looks very tiny, but it's not going to be as tiny when you're sewing it. So this is going to be one piece. So this is going to be back 1, back 2, back 3. So now I'm going to go ahead and measure the rest of my measurements. So now the bust measurement is going to be 32. 32 divided by 4 is going to be 8. So remember, I'm starting from here, 8 inches. So now for the waist, I'm going to subtract, this was 1 inch, 1.25 inch from the waist measurement. Or I could just, like, you know, I'll show you guys how I'm going to do it. So for the waist is 25. I'm going to go ahead, divide my 25 by 4. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did for the front. Measure first. So this stops at 2.5, at 2 inches. So from that 2, I'm going to move it to where it starts again, so here. So from that 2 to here is 3/4. I'm going to move my 3/4 to right here again, and then measure. So it's going to stop right here. So then I'm going to go ahead and connect my lines. So for the back, I want my back to stop where the half length is, which is at 13. I'm going to go ahead and do that line right here. So like so, connect this to the armhole, and this is my back piece. I have 1, 2, 3 pieces for my back, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. These are my 5 pieces for this corset top. I'm going to go ahead and cut it. Have it in mind, I'm going to have 1/2 inch allowance all around it. So on every single side of these pieces, I'm going to include 1/2 inch allowance when I cut it out on the fabric. In my next video, I'm going to show you how to cut this out on the fabric and how to stitch it together. I'm also going to show you how to achieve that sleeve and how to add boning to your corset top without you having to add channels. See you guys in my next video, and bye for now.